Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Great or Bait, the greatest series on YouTube. Once again, thank you guys for the support on this series. It really means a lot to me. Like genuinely, I absolutely enjoy making this series, continuing it. And once again, today I have two very interesting cars. This time around, they're not supposed to be the best cars in the game or anything like that. It's just two silly cars that you guys suggested, and I'm very excited to share the results that I have gotten with them. Yeah, I guess I'll just jump straight into it with the first car, that being the Honda Civic 97, suggested by none other than Shiloh himself. So let's discuss this a bit, shall we? The Honda is a decent car. It just has a major flaw in my opinion, which is the absolute tiny amount of power that it has. So maxed out, this car develops 720 horsepower with whatever engine, like it's like a 2-liter, I think I swapped it to, I don't know. Anyway, that's the most it does, and that really hurts it, especially in later sections. So, oh, by the way, here I had to rewind because I got disconnected. I don't do that, like you guys saw me. I don't like rewinding in general, especially when I test these cars. But there, it was my fault. I literally just got disconnected. But this was my best run, so I decided to just leave it in to, you know, keep it fair. So yeah, it's a good car. It transitions quick and whatnot, but it's just so underpowered, man, and you can feel that. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for getting a 142.5. Not too bad, but you know, this, however, is where it gets it's where it gets a little bit bad. So because it only has 720 horsepower, which is like half what normal maxed out cars do in this game, it only reaches like 406 downhill, aka about 253 miles an hour. Very slow, very slow. Not very slow for its power output, but because it's a very small power output, it consequently is very slow. So unfortunately, I just cannot give it more than a 2.5 out of 10. It is that slow, and I really can't save it. I suppose situation doesn't change when talking about acceleration. It has like a decent launch. By the way, thank you, Shark, for testing for me. It has a decent launch, and that's about it. From then on, it's just it's slow. I don't know. It's as low as a B-class car, to be honest. So yeah, 2 out of 10. It doesn't have the power, man. It just doesn't. However, it does have a little bit of grip, thankfully. Now, this car, some of you probably know, most of you probably know, it is meta in B class on Los Jardines. It is quite grippy, but it does utilize like a third of the amount of power it does in this clip, just because it's B class, and it also uses the front wheel drive drivetrain. I used all-wheel drive just because I tried both front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive and I tested, and I just can't get any better times with it. It is an absolute pain to drive. Although I recognize that it is faster, I just can't get a better time with it. It is very painful. I don't have the time to put in, and so I went with all-wheel drive. I'm sorry, but it didn't perform that well, man. I don't know. 5 out of 10 is the best I can give, even by bumping it up a little bit. It doesn't do amazing off-road either, to be honest. It does get off-road tires, thankfully, but again, man, it just lacks power. It has an alright amount of grip, I guess, but it doesn't really matter when the other cars that I test usually have twice the amount of power. It just doesn't have any oomph coming out of the corners, you feel me? And that's a shame, because I like this car. I wanted this car to do better. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So I believe I got a 1 minute full 5 dead here with the Honda, which is a little bit slower than the Scout, which has like 1,000 horsepower more. So there's some grip there for sure. But again, this is the most underpowered car I have tested so far, and that feels it. It scored like 5-6 points lower than it would have if it had double the amount of power. So again, unfortunately, I have to give this car a pretty low rating of just 4 out of 10. It is what it is, man. I really tried, but I can't do much more than that. So here are the results. It scored 19.5 out of 50 for an average of 3.9. Again, I think it would have scored a lot more if it had more power, but it just doesn't. I am quite sorry. But the results, you know, they don't lie, so to say. Let's move on to the next car, which is none other than the Nio EP9, suggested by Prototype a couple episodes ago, actually. And I can see why you wanted me to test this car, but I'm also sorry to disappoint you that it is not a great car either, to be honest. So let's start by drifting, of course. It isn't a bad car in terms of this, but I would just call it a Walmart Evija. It is an Evija that has less power and transitions even slower somehow, which is kind of crazy because the Evija is super slow anyway. And this car is supposed to be better because it's a bit lighter, but it's just not really. And so it just becomes the Walmart Evija in my opinion. It scored a little bit better than the Civic in terms of the score. It got like 300 extra points, but I mean, come on, it has double the power, bro. It better score more, you know what I'm saying? The transitions are just so slow and painful though. I recognize that my run wasn't very good, but it just isn't, you know? Like, Evija is gonna beat this any day of the week. So yeah, just because it's a bit better than the Civic, 6.5 out of 10. Oh boy, okay. This is a premiere for me because from all the cars that I've ever tested in terms of top speed, and I tested quite a few, I think I tested almost 100 cars in this game in total, this is the slowest car I have ever tested. And I have not tested the Pios yet, because I know they're absolute shit and I didn't even bother. I expect those to be slower than this, but other than the Pios, which have 7 times less power than this thing does, this is by far the slowest car in the game in terms of top speed. It is slower than the Isetta. The Isetta is 10 miles an hour faster than this, with less than half the amount of power and the shape of an actual egg. So for all that, I cannot give it any more than a 1 out of 10. It is just dreadfully slow. Dreadfully. And unfortunately, acceleration does not save it. It is just about the same as top speed. It is terrible. So again, Shark had to go through the pain of testing this for me, and as you can see here, by the end of the strip, it doesn't even reach 200 miles an hour, which is insane. The drag is crazy on this thing. So yeah, 2 out of 10 for just barely beating out the Civic. It is ridiculous. And I could also say it's ridiculous in terms of grip, but this time finally in a good way, because it is indeed fucking phenomenal. It has so much grip, and obviously I expected that, but it beat out the Noble by like a second and a half, and it's pretty phenomenal. Yeah, I have a hard time describing this because it's so heavy, but at the same time it moves around like it's 3 times as light as this, and I don't even want to imagine what this car would do if it was any lighter than it is. But yeah, so here I get a 41.3, and I mean, I think my PB is another 41.3, just a lower 0.3. This car is very consistent. I couldn't really beat that, so I just got, you know, I just shared this result. I think I can do a 40 seconds, 40.9 or whatnot, but again, I don't want to spend too much time on one car and, you know, make it seem like it's unfair. But yeah, it was indeed a pleasure to drive, but that's it. That's the only thing that it's good at. This car is literally just one of those things that you max one stat and the others you just don't care about them. But I'm still gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It's not a Hot Wheels BTTB, but it's still fantastic. It definitely deserves the 9 out of 10. But here's where I had a couple issues with the grading, because while it's not terrible off-road, It's also not good, and the main reason is that it doesn't actually get off-road tires. I had to use rally tires in this clip, and I feel like if it did have off-road tires, it would be pretty damn good actually. But because it does not, I gave it an average score. It's unfortunate, of course. I actually really wanted this car to be good. I wanted the Civic to be good as well, for that matter. But this car, with the amount of power and the grip that it has, it's a shame it got basically an average score. The downside in this case is the tires. It's a shame, really. Like, acceleration doesn't matter that much on this track as it does. Actually, no, it kind of does. But like, fortunately, it has low-end acceleration. It just doesn't have high-end or mid, to be honest. So yeah, I had to give it the average, just a 5 out of 10. But I mean, at least it's better than the 1s and the 2s, I suppose. And if you're wondering, I did get a 13.369 if you slow down the footage, which I did here for you. So yeah, here is the final results sheet here. The Nio gets 23.5 out of 50 for an average of 4.7 out of 10, which I kind of expected. It's a niche car. It's good at one thing and terrible at others. But it was still very fun to test, and yeah, I'm looking forward to testing more of these. So thank you, Shiloh and Proto, for sending me these. I had a great time doing this, and I already have picked the cars for episode 5. So yeah, I guess I'll see you there, guys, when that happens.